A federal appeals court will soon hear arguments on whether the victims of the 2019 terrorist attack at Naval Air Station Pensacola can sue Saudi Arabia. Victims and their families filing suit in 2021, arguing the kingdom bears responsibility for the actions of its airmen who opened fire at the base. However, a judge dismissed that. Our investigative reporter Brendan Kirby is in studio. Brendan, what's going on?
Well, and he says you mentioned a judge dismissed the suit after determining that Saudi Arabia is immune from lawsuits in the United States. But lawyers for the plaintiffs argue that this lawsuit is allowed under a law intended to help the victims of the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks. December 6, 2019, chaos erupts at Naval Air Station Pensacola as gunfire sends people ducking for cover. The attack killed 3 U.S. service members and injured 9 other service members and law enforcement officers. Sheriff's deputies shot the gunman to death. When the facts emerged, investigators discovered the gunman was Mohammed Saeed al-Shamrani, who had joined the Saudi Arabian Air Force 4 years earlier and come to the United States as part of a training program for U.S. allies.
Those were representations that were made to President Trump himself at the time.
Chris Paulus, one of the lawyers representing 37 victims and their families, says Saudi Arabia was recklessly indifferent to the obvious fact that al-Shamrani had been radicalized by anti-American extremism.
All you need to do is look at Mohammed al-Shamrani's Twitter page to know that he harbors extremist ideologies, anti-Western ideologies, anti-Israel ideologies, was retweeting and mirroring the rhetoric of some very extremist religious figures who al-Qaeda finds justification in their teachings.
Saudi Arabia disputes that. In a court filing, the kingdom contends that al-Shamrani used an alias on Twitter to hide his identity. The country's lawyers say al-Shamrani was rogue. Al-Shamrani's attack was a terrible crime and a betrayal of his country, the court filing states. Appellee Kingdom of Saudi Arabia immediately denounced the attack and cooperated fully with the United States' investigation on it. Saudi Arabia cannot be held liable for al-Shamrani's actions. The key legal issue that the 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals will have to settle is whether the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act offers an exception to the immunity that foreign governments typically enjoy. That act, passed over a presidential veto in 2016, was designed to help the victims of 9/11.
That's exactly what Congress was trying to correct when it passed the law in 2016, was to allow litigants like the 9/11 victims and those victims here at the NAS Pensacola attack to sue non-state sponsors of terrorism, specifically Saudi Arabia, for its history of supporting extremist ideologies.
Paulus's law firm, Levin Papantonio, successfully used that same 2016 law to win a nearly $1 billion judgment against Iran over terrorist attacks against Americans in Iraq. This case is a little different, though, because Iran, unlike Saudi Arabia, has specifically been designated by the U.S. as a state sponsor of terrorism. Reporting live in the News Center, Brendan Kirby, Fox 10 News.